Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all? All good? Good, thank you. So yesterday we had a discussion session on this year's mains paper. So YouTube में open था सबके लिए. So any of you watched that? ठीक है. YouTube में है तो देख लेना एक बार. Okay, I have discussed in detail about this year's geography questions. ठीक है. So overall, what is the pattern? How it is changed from the previous patterns, and so what else we have to do this year. Overall approach कैसे रखना है, ये सारा चीज़ें मैंने डिस्कस किया है. ठीक है. So try to watch that. So थोड़ा सा डिटेल में डिस्कस किया है, तो थोड़ा लंबा लग सकता है, तो इसलिए ऑप्शन है फास्ट फॉरवर्ड. थोड़ा सा फास्ट करके देख लेना. So in the class we were discussing about oceanography. So हमने बात किया था ocean bottom topography, the different topographies of ocean bottom, major, minor, continental shelf, slope, rise, so abyssal plain, seamounts, guyots, and submarine canyons, and island arc, mid-oceanic ridges, archipelago, trenches, all of this discussed in detail. So then the next topic was temperature of ocean, the factors affecting temperature of ocean, latitudes, winds, ocean currents, and landmass, how it controls and helps in distribution of temperature across different parts of the ocean. And in terms of the vertical distribution, we demarcated three important regions: epilimnion, thermocline, hypolimnion. Epilimnion, uniform high temperature; hypolimnion, uniform low temperature. In between there is a rapid decline, and that is how the temperature is distributed. Horizontally, how it varies from one latitude to another. Then salinity, factors affecting salinity, the important source of salinity, which adds on to salinity, the important sources which will reduce the salinity. So there is a balance between both. And the overall composition of salinity, the dissolved proportion, and factors influencing salinity in terms of what is causing the continuous change and distribution of salinity across different parts of the world. So we have temperature, wind speed, rainfall, rivers, ice formation, ocean currents, and overall the distribution of all of this. So then we discussed about distribution of salinity from one region to another, horizontally, vertically. Vertically to important hai. Vertically we discussed that so near to the subtropical region there is a very high salinity near to the surface, and then it gradually decreases, becomes uniform. Near to the polar region it is very low, and then it increases, becomes uniform. Near to the equator it is low and then becomes high and then becomes uniform. So also we discussed the horizontal distribution from across different latitude. Ocean deposits are of four types: terrigenous, biogenous, hydrogenous, and cosmogenous. With examples हमने बात किया था, यहाँ पर बस नाम ही याद रखना है आपको. Coral reefs के बारे में we are discussing. So first we discussed what are corals. First we discuss what are corals or coral reefs. Second, conditions. So basically corals are the symbiotic relationship between the coral polyp and algae zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae which lives in a symbiotic relationship. So zooxanthellae provides food through photosynthesis, and the coral polyps provide habitat through lime secretion and builds a colony. So that is what is algae, and it supports a very wide variety of organisms which are there along the coastal regions, so causing a very high density and biodiversity of life. So that's why they are called as the rainforests of oceans. Rainforests of oceans. The conditions which are favorable for the growth of coral reef, 6 condition मैंने बताया था. First one is above 20 degrees Celsius, then latitude between 30 degree north and 30 degree south. Third, depth of water between 200 to 250 feet. Then fourth, salinity, sediments should be less, free, it should be clear, and salinity should be average. ठीक है. Then submarine platform होना चाहिए, तभी ये आएगा. So based on which we also mark the distribution of coral reefs across different parts of the world. ठीक है. So यहाँ तक बात हुआ था. There are a few more things to discuss about the types of coral reefs and a phenomena called as coral bleaching. Okay, दोनों बात करेंगे. The cause of coral bleaching. So other than this, any other questions? All clear? Atlantic? Ocean currents है. Next topic. ठीक है. So then ठीक है. कोरल ब्लीचिंग में बताता हूँ. It's related to coral bleaching. What is traction? So in what context? ठीक है. You show it to me in the end. Okay, I'll discuss. Pelagic deposits. So these are different parts of the ocean. Okay, we'll study about this in environment. Okay, pelagic, littoral, okay, photic, aphotic. These are different zones of the oceans. Okay, very briefly, littoral is that part of the ocean which is near to the continental shelf where there's the abundance of light as well as nutrients. Pelagic is the deep parts, deep ocean ka jo parts hai, that is what is pelagic. Photic is that layer where there is sunlight, and aphotic is the bottom layer where there is no sunlight. Okay. So that is in general pelagic. Okay. Then what is benthos? Benthic region क्या होता है? जो deep bottom है, सबसे नीचे रहता है. That is what is benthos. The organisms which dwell in the deep bottom, they are benthos. ठीक है. So you will study about this in environment. So एक डाउट है, हाई सलाइन वाटर सिंक्स डाउन देन हाउ सरफेस वाटर हैज हाई सैलिनिटी देन डीप वाटर. सो ऑफकोर्स जहाँ पर हाई सैलिनिटी रहता है इट हैज़ अ हायर डेंसिटी ज़्यादा है तो इट विल स्टार्ट टू सिंक डाउन. सो बट ऑल्सो देर इज ऑल्सो हाई टेम्परेचर. ओके, हाई टेम्परेचर मेक्स द वाटर लाइटर सो दैट कीप्स ए पार्ट ऑफ इट फ्लोटिंग. बट हाउएवर मेजॉरिटी ऑफ दीज हाई सैलिनिटी बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया तो डेफिनेटली इट विल स्टार्ट टू सिंक. देयर इज अ कंटिन्यूस मिक्सचर. ऐसा नहीं कि पूरा सेपरेट लेयर बन जाएगा. कि if you at any point of time जो near to the subtropical region, if you take the top layer, the density is less, salinity is slightly higher. Even though there is a higher salt content, water being light, okay, because of hot temperatures, it will try to float. But gradually तो वो mix हो जाता है. Okay, this difference in salinity itself is what is causing the movement of ocean currents, both along the surface as well as in the vertical direction. Okay, so that is what we call as the thermohaline circulations. Next topic में आएगा. ठीक है. Anything else? Abyssal hill. So abyssal hill is basically abyssal plain जैसा ही है. Abyssal plain is very deep, flat plains are called as abyssal plain. So on these plains sometimes we suddenly find isolated hills which are same as the sea mounts. Okay, the sea mount, these are just distributed hills, distributed mountains on the sea floor. These are also called as abyssal hills. What kind of soil is present in deep ocean? So rather than saying soil, we can say it is just the sediments. Okay, just some loose sediments derived from the continents that is just spread over everywhere. Okay, so we don't usually call it as a soil, because usually soil refers to the part of this lithosphere in the terrestrial, okay, land के ऊपर जो रहता है. So it's just some loose sediments which are just spread over everywhere. Fine. So below that there would be definitely layer of oceanic crust which is made up of basaltic magma. ठीक है, चलो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दिस. यस, कोरल आइलैंड्स अभी आएगा. विल टॉक अबाउट दिस. So next, types of coral reefs. Types of coral reefs. See, types of coral reefs basically refers to different shapes of the coral reefs which are formed on the surface of Earth. Okay, so coral reef क्या होता है? This is mass of limestone and dolomites, right, which are continuously secreted by this coral polyp, which develops a huge platform, huge structure बना देता है ना. So what kind of shape and what is the type of structure? Depending on that, we have three types of coral reefs. The first one, is fringing reef. Okay, it's called as fringing reef. Second one is barrier reef, and third one is atoll. Fringing reef, barrier reef, atoll. Okay, so first of all, what exactly is a reef? Coral reef क्या होता है? So let's say this is the continental shelf, and this is the slope, and this is the deep ocean basin. So we have water, say till this level, यहाँ तक रहता है ना? So this part is shallow part of the continental crust as well as it is submerged. So on this part, so this region is most suitable for the growth of corals, right? This continental shelf is most suitable for growth of coral, but ये ऐसे पूरा हर जगह में नहीं होता है. Sometimes though they grow very near to the coastal region and they build up like this. It builds up huge reefs. ऐसे पूरा very near to the coastal region ऐसे बना जाता है. And since they are very near to the coastal region, थोड़ा सा disturbance ज़्यादा रहता है in terms of wave activity या wind activity, because of which they don't become a very continuous stretch of coral. These are discontinuous stretch of coral. For example, this is the coastal region. तो यहाँ पर ले लो ऐसे. Just next to it, you will find some patches of corals very near to the coastal region. It may or may not contain a lagoon. What is a lagoon? A small lake or water body near to the coastal region. So it may or may not separated by a lagoon. इसके पास में ऐसे छोटा सा lagoon हो सकता है या ऐसे ही open water भी हो सकता है, because these are just patches of discontinued coral reefs. That is what we call as the fringing reef. Usually it starts with fringing reef only. It starts with, this is the beginning stage. Gradually when they become bigger and they spread out, they form a large sized coral reefs, which usually develops slightly away from the coastal region. Okay, slightly away from the coastal region, which is definitely separated by a lagoon. You will find a lagoon in between, the water body which is there between that coral reef and the coastal land. Okay, that is a lagoon. So this is large, big size hoga and slightly away from the coast, and it is continuous. It is continuous. Okay, for example, here if this is the coastal region, यहां पर रहता है in a continuous patch like this. That is barrier reef. Okay, क्या difference है? This is slightly away from the coast, it is continuous and elongated. This is near to the coast, discontinuous and just small patches. So that is what we call it as barrier reef. Near to the Caribbean islands, बहुत जगह में जो coral reef मिलता है, they are all fringing reef. Okay, they are not very continuous. Near to the Great Australian, मतलब जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया का जो नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न पार्ट है वहां पर है the Great Barrier Reef, one of the longest stretch of coral reef. Okay, so it covers from the northernmost part till 30 degrees south तक जाएगा. It is the most elongated, मतलब इतना ज़्यादा लेंदी coral reef तो कहीं पे भी नहीं मिलेगा. That is what is Great Barrier Reef. Okay, that type of coral reef is called as barrier reef. Gradually यही develop होके barrier reef बन जाता है. Fine. So what is atoll? Atoll is a circular coral reef developed around a island or a guyot. It's a circular coral reef developed around an island or a guyot. ये कैसे बनता है? So let's say this is the oceanic floor. यहां पर है कोई island. मान लो यहां पर island है. And let's say this is the water level. So along these parts जहां पर थोड़ा सा shallow है, where there is abundant sunlight and there is some amount of some kind of platform which is available for the growth of coral reefs. Along this part you will see the growth of coral reefs. All along the entire island. पूरा island cover करते हुए मिलता है आपको. That is what is atoll. Okay. So around a particular island you will find atolls. अगर मान लो यहां पर island नहीं है, it's just a guyot. Guyot में क्या होता है? It is just here. Flat है. तो ऊपर से देखा तो आपको land नहीं दिखेगा. Okay, you will not see the land. The corals just build on these guyots again in a circular manner ऐसे. So gradually build होके इसका जो top post है, top part है, वो surface के ऊपर आ जाता है. So that results in the formation of like this. And the corals which have grown, अब नीचे actually guyot है, there is a platform kind of structure. So on this it has just grown. है ना, ऊपर से देखा तो ऐसे लगता है कि it is just some kind of floating structure. It is not floating structure. नीचे कोई ऐसे guyot हो सकता है या कोई submarine platform हो सकता है जिसके ऊपर ऐसे continuously ऐसे circular manner में बन गया. So these are also called as the coral islands because they are made up of the coral reefs. They are made up of coral reefs. Or in this case, wherever there is a volcanic island, around that also there can be coral reefs. Center में land भी हो सकता है, land भी हो सकता है. बहुत जगह में volcanic islands बन गया. Okay, volcanic islands है, but the top portion is totally covered with corals. They are also called as the coral islands. That doesn't mean that they are completely made up of the coral reefs. इसके नीचे base है volcanic islands only. Coral reefs cannot grow from the bottom of the ocean till the top. ऊपर तक नहीं आ सकते. You can see many parts of this Pacific Ocean. We have many coral reefs, coral islands तो बहुत सारा है. Okay, here देखो यहाँ पर ये कहाँ से आ गया? They cannot grow from the bottom of the ocean till the top. There are islands over there and surrounding the islands you will find the coral reefs. All such islands से जो associated है, जो ring shape आ जाते हैं, that is what we call as atoll. It's called as atoll. Fine. So India में कौन सा है? Lakshadweep Islands. Lakshadweep. They are all atolls. Most of them they सबसे नीचे वाला base तो volcanic है, उसके ऊपर का portion it is totally covered with corals. They are all atolls. They are also called as coral islands. So three types. One is fringing reef, second one is barrier reef, third one is atoll. Barrier reef तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया का है. Atolls they are majorly Pacific Ocean as well as Indian Ocean. Okay, Maldives, Lakshadweep they are all atolls. And doubts here? Table reef ऐसे तो it's not a major type as such. Okay, so I think that they should be referring to this fringing reef का part जहाँ पर shallow हो सकता है या atoll के ऊपर जो रहता है that may be referring to. There's no standard type of reef as such. ओके, मेजरली तीन ही क्लासिफिकेशन है, फ्रिंजिंग रीफ, बैरियर रीफ, एटोल। इसके ऊपर बहुत सारा थियरीज है, जनरल स्टडीज के लिए जरूरी नहीं है। हाउ एग्जैक्टली एटोल्स बिल्ड अप? ओके, मेनी ऑफ द थियरीज सजेस्ट दैट ड्यू टू द राइज इन द सी लेवल, ओके, सो जब सी लेवल राइज होता है, ओके, सम ऑफ द आइलैंड्स गेट सबमर्ज्ड. When there is a drop in the sea level, the islands rise above the water, and that is very favorable for the growth of corals. Okay, जैसे जैसे sea level rise होते गया, so let's say there was a island here. So यहाँ पर ऊपर का पोर्शन में corals था, ठीक है. So मान लो sea level यहाँ पर आ गया, so फिर यहाँ पर corals develop हो गया, फिर यहाँ पर आ गया, यहाँ पर corals develop हो गया, ओके, या सबसे ऊपर चला गया, सो थोड़ा सा यहाँ पर भी अच्छे से ग्रोथ हो गया. सो लाइक दैट, राइज इन द सी लेवल एंड फॉल इन द सी लेवल वुड आल्सो कॉज द चेंज इन द कोरल रीफ, बिकॉज वो सबसे ऊपर वाला पोर्शन में ही रहता है, नीचे नहीं हो सकता है. ये सब थियरीज जनरल स्टडीज के लिए जरूरी नहीं है, इट इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड हियर. कि बहुत सारे थियरीज है हाउ एग्जैक्टली दीज अटोल्स आर फॉर्म्ड. सो ओवरऑल टाइप्स याद रखो एंड द डिफरेंस बिटवीन देम, दैट वुड बी सफिशिएंट विद एग्जांपल्स. ओके, राइट अबाउट दिस. Silica Lake is just an example of lagoon. It's not corals. It's lagoon. We don't have coral reefs along the eastern coast of India. It's only along the western coast. Why? Sediments and rivers. Large number of rivers are there. Okay. Types of coral reefs. First one, fringing reef. A narrow coral platform lying close to the cyclones. Lying close, sorry, coast. यहाँ पर कोई साइक्लोन का sorry, so lying close to the coast. So somebody was asking what is the effect of cyclone on coral reefs. तो इसलिए मैं बोलता हूँ ये क्वेरी तो क्वेरी पोर्टल में राइज करो, रेस्पॉन्स पोर्टल में राइज मत करो, ठीक है. इट्स काइंड ऑफ डिस्टर्बिंग आल्सो, ठीक है. lying close to the coast. Lying close to the coast. Example, the islands of Caribbean Sea. Islands of Caribbean Sea. Second, barrier reef. A wide coral platform located far from the coast. Located far from the coast and is separated by a lagoon. Example, Great Barrier Reef. Third, atoll. A circular coral reef. Circular coral reef developed around a guyot, seamount, or island. Example, islands of Pacific Ocean, Lakshadweep, Maldives, etc. ठीक है? So here is a small video about this coral reef.
Coral reefs. Their bright, vivid colors can be seen in tropical ocean waters around the globe. Beyond their brilliant appearance lies a hidden significance. Coral are animals. Though they may look like colorful plants, coral are in fact made up of tiny animals called polyps. These invertebrates can range from the size of a pinhead to a bit larger than a basketball. Each polyp consists of a soft sac-like body topped by a mouth covered in stinging tentacles. To protect their soft bodies and add support, the polyps secrete limestone skeletons or calicles. Corals are megabuilders. Polyp calicles connect to one another, creating a colony that acts as a single organism. As colonies grow over hundreds and thousands of years, they join with other colonies and become reefs that can grow to hundreds of miles long. The largest coral reef is Australia's Great Barrier Reef, which began growing about 20,000 years ago. Coral reefs are some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Though they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, coral reefs are home to 25% of all marine creatures. It's been estimated that up to 2 million species inhabit coral reefs, rivaling the biodiversity of the rainforest. The reefs provide rich habitat that helps protect young fish as they grow. Coral are translucent. Coral reefs get their rainbow of colors from algae or zooxanthellae that live in their tissue. Though corals use their tentacles to capture some food, most of their food comes from the algae they house. When coral becomes stressed by pollution or other factors, they evict their algae. Coral bleaching results, revealing corals' white skeletons. Coral provide a window to the past. As coral grow, their limestone skeletons form layers similar to tree rings that vary in composition and thickness based on ocean conditions at the time. With some coral reefs growing for thousands or even millions of years, scientists can study these layers to reveal what the Earth's climate may have been like in the ancient past. Unfortunately, climate change is putting corals' future in danger, along with the millions of species that inhabit the reefs and the 500 million people that rely on reef fish for food. Warming waters result in prolonged coral bleaching that kill coral reefs or leave them vulnerable to other threats. Without significant action on climate change, our oceans could lose many of their colorful reefs by the end of the century.
Yeah. So that's our coral reefs. So next topic, coral bleaching. So what is coral bleaching? What do you mean by bleaching? Bleaching का मतलब क्या है? हाँ? Removal of color, है ना? So bleaching. So कपड़े के जो कलर रिमूव करना ब्लीचिंग होता है, right? So what is coral bleaching? Coral bleaching is a condition in which the corals symbiotic relationship is disturbed. So I told you the coral reefs are a symbiotic relationship between the coral polyp and zooxanthellae. Coral polyp provides the habitat, है ना, zooxanthellae provides the food. So basically coral polyp घर बनाता है ना, so zooxanthellae खाना बनाता है. So both are helping each other, both are supporting each other, so both are living together. So जब भी coral polyps are the ones who are the like the foundation creature here. You know, whenever the coral polyps are disturbed, disturbed by what? Disturbed by any of the conditions which we discussed earlier. जो 6 कंडीशन जो मैंने बताया था ना, उसमें कोई भी एक कंडीशन डिस्टर्ब हो गया, the coral polyps will not be able to survive in those water. ओके, क्या क्या कारण हो सकता है? राइज इन द टेम्परेचर हो सकता है. टेम्परेचर 20 डिग्री से ज्यादा होना चाहिए, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि बहुत ज्यादा होना चाहिए. समटाइम्स द वाटर बिकम्स टू हॉट. इफ इट इज फॉर शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन ऑफ टाइम इट्स फाइन, थोड़ा बहुत ठीक है. समर में बहुत ज्यादा हीट अप हो गया, चलता है, बट इट शुड नॉट प्रोलॉन्गेट. द हॉट कंडीशंस शुड नॉट प्रोलॉन्गेट फॉर ए सफिशिएंट लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. 20 से ज्यादा होना चाहिए, बट 20 से ज्यादा बहुत ज्यादा होना नहीं होना चाहिए, एंड दैट टू फॉर ए लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. सेकेंड, सैलिनिटी डिस्टर्ब हो गया, ज्यादा फ्रेश वाटर आ गया या ज्यादा सलाइन वाटर आ गया, या टू मच ऑफ सेडिमेंट्स आ गया, सेडिमेंट्स के साथ में पोल्यूशन भी आ गया. ओके, सो कोस्टल रीजन में तो बिकॉज ऑफ अर्बन activities or industrial activities, huge quantity of sewage, industrial waste is released. So because of all of this, the water quality decreases, and that will disturb the corals. Okay. or even industry से जो गर्म पानी निकलता है, the hot water which is released from the industries, and that also disturbs the coral reef. And various different chemicals used. For example, जो recreation activities जो coastal regions में है ना, so beach वगैरह में बहुत ज़्यादा केमिकल्स यूज होते हैं, सनस्क्रीन वगैरह. दिस इज वेरी वेरी डेंजरस फॉर कोरल रीफ. सो मेनी ऑफ दीज केमिकल्स आर वेरी डेंजरस फॉर कोरल रीफ. सो बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दीज डिस्टर्ब्ड कंडीशंस, द कोरल पॉलिप्स कम अंडर स्ट्रेस. ओके, व्हेन द कोरल पॉलिप्स कम अंडर स्ट्रेस, इट एक्सपेल्स द algae. Okay, it expels the algae. So when it expels the algae, it becomes colorless, because the color is provided by algae. Okay, so basically काम कंडेंशन घर पे लेके आए तो यही होता है है ना. तो कोरल स्ट्रेस में आ गया तो घर पे तो डिस्टर्बेंस हो गया, तो दोनों का रिलेशनशिप खराब हो गया. So once the algae leaves the coral's life has become colorless. तो जब तक था तब तक पता नहीं था, जब निकल गया तो जब छोड़ के निकल गया तब पता चला वैल्यू उसका. तो खाना नहीं है, कलर नहीं है ना पूरा. सो वंस द algae लीव्स, इट बिकम्स टोटली कलरलेस, क्योंकि पूरा कलर तो algae का ही था. So it becomes colorless. एक चीज है. दूसरी चीज है, आफ्टर सम टाइम ऑल द फूड इज ओवर, द वाटर बिकम न्यूट्रिएंटलेस, है ना. पूरा ऐसे न्यूट्रिएंट्स नहीं होते हैं तो खाना नहीं मिलेगा. इवन द कोरल स्टार्ट्स टू डाई. द कोरल पॉलिप्स विल स्टार्ट टू डाई. इट विल लीव द स्केलेटन, दैट इज दैट ये जो सेक्रेशन हुआ था ना, जो लाइमस्टोन सेक्रेशन, बस वही रहेगा. एंड विदाउट कोरल पॉलिप्स इवन दिस विल बिकम वीकर ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. ये भी बिकॉज ऑफ वेव एक्शन इट विल स्टार्ट टू ब्रेक ऑफ एंड इट विल बी डिस्टर्ब्ड. इसके पहले बहुत टाइम में ही जो बाकी सारा फिश वगैरह है वो भी छोड़ देता है इसको, क्योंकि खाना तो नहीं है ना. तो खाना नहीं है तो why would they leave? So all of these fish and all the other organisms will leave. So that makes the entire coral ecosystem destroyed. Okay, पूरा खत्म हो गया. So now, is it something irreversible? Up to some extent it is reversible. In the initial periods of time, ऐसा नहीं है कि coral bleaching जब होने लगेगा एक ही टाइम में सब निकल जाएगा, है ना. So everywhere it will not happen. It will start in some places where the coral bleaching starts to happen. At that point of time, if we can rectify this condition which is disturbing the coral polyp, so तब reversible है, तब तक reversible है. After certain limit, when it crosses certain limit, when it starts to happen in large scale over a long period of time, it becomes irreversible. Okay, so most of the ओशंस जहां पर मेजर कोरल रीफ्स हमने मार्क किया है, मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर अंडर द थ्रेट. मोर देन 50-60% आर ऑलरेडी ब्लीच्ड. कोरल रीफ्स मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर ब्लीच्ड. इंडियन ओशन में 70% आर ब्लीच्ड. ठीक है. सो ग्रेट बैरियर रीफ का भी मेजॉरिटी मतलब मोस्ट पार्ट ऑफ इट इज ब्लीच्ड, बट दे आर रिवर्सिंग. थोड़ा बहुत प्रोटेक्शन की वजह से रिवर्सिंग भी हो रहा है. ठीक है. सो यहां पर बहुत सारा थोड़ा सा मैन मेड इंटरवेंशन यूज करते हैं. वी यूज फ्यू ऑफ द मैन मेड इंटरवेंशंस टू प्रोटेक्ट दीज कोरल्स, and we also try to revive these corals which are undergoing bleaching. So one such technology is bio-rock technology. Okay, bio-rock technology बोलते हैं. You will read about this in current affairs. So basically उसमें क्या है? So we place some structures made up of steel or something like ऐसे एक metallic structures हम place कर देते हैं इसके surrounding में, and इसके through एक बहुत light amount of electricity is passed. So that will attract this limestone and वो build up होने लगेगा. It will help in building up of the reef. It will helpful in bringing back the corals. Okay, जैसे जैसे reef build होते जाएगा थोड़ा बहुत उसका strength बढ़ेगा and it is expected to build back the corals. It is under implementation in Gujarat coast. Gujarat coast में implemented है. That is what is bio-rock technology. It is totally current affairs related. ठीक है. Other than this, few more steps required to be taken. So you will read about that in environment. Environment में आप पढ़ोगे इसके बारे में exactly क्या क्या steps चाहिए गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से, क्या हो रहा है, ये सारा चीज़ है. बट यहाँ पर इंपॉर्टेंट है कि what are the cause of coral bleaching. जो भी कंडीशन हमने डिस्कस किया है, if you disturb that, coral bleaching हो जाएगा. Okay, high temperature, sediments, pollution, water pollution, thermal pollution, and even the cyclones. Okay, when there is a very high wind speed, okay, high precipitation is happening, so wind speed it will break the corals. Coral reefs को तोड़ता है. ठीक है. That is the impact of frequent cyclones and storms. It will destroy, it will break the coral reefs. And so और क्या है? So global warming की वजह से sea temperature is rising. Ocean acidification is happening. The ocean water is becoming more acidic. So that is also bad. है ना. ओशन वाटर का कंडीशन ऑलमोस्ट सेम जैसे है वो उतना ही होना चाहिए, ज़्यादा कुछ चेंज नहीं होना चाहिए. ओशन एसिडिफिकेशन हो गया, सी लेवल राइज हो गया, है ना. फिशिंग एक्टिविटी इज इंपॉर्टेंट. तो पर्टिकुलरली जो सस्टेनेबल फिशिंग एक्टिविटी, बिकॉज दीज कोरल रीफ्स आर वन ऑफ द रिचेस्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ फिशिंग फिश, है ना. फिश का जो मेजर ब्रीडिंग ग्राउंड यहीं से होता है. सो इन सम ऑफ द प्लेसेस द फिशिंग एक्टिविटी इन्वॉल्व लार्ज स्केल डीप ट्रॉलिंग. कि डीप ट्रॉलिंग इन्वॉल्व्स लाइक ऐसे मैशनाइज्ड बोट से लार्ज स्केल में ऐसे ओशन पूरा ओशन फ्लोर को ऐसे निकाल के आते हैं, ट्रॉल करके आते हैं. उसके वजह से पूरा इकोसिस्टम बर्बाद हो जाता है. यू आर रिमूविंग द एंटायर इकोसिस्टम. कोरल रीफ को पूरा हटा देता है. सो दैट इज वेरी वेरी बैड. ओके, दैट इज वेरी डीप ट्रॉलिंग इज वेरी वेरी बैड फॉर कोरल इकोसिस्टम पर्टिकुलरली. So fishing should be sustainable, and most importantly El Nino. El Nino जो आगे आएगा, El Nino causes very dry condition, high temperature, बारिश तो बहुत कम हो जाते हैं जिसकी वजह से कोरल ब्लीचिंग होता है. One of the largest episodes of coral bleaching was reported during the years of El Nino. El Nino happens once in 7 to 8 years. It will be there for 1 or 2 years. जब El Nino होगा so तब तो पूरा coral bleaching तो it is mass scale. Large scale coral bleaching episodes have been reported in during the years of El Nino, both Indian Ocean as well as Pacific Ocean. ठीक है. So then anything else? So these are the causes of coral bleaching. Cause of coral bleaching. ठीक है. Write about this. Okay, heading is coral bleaching. Corals receive their coloration from the algae living in a symbiotic relationship full stop. Coral bleaching refers to Coral bleaching refers to the loss of color of corals. The loss of color of corals due to stress induced expulsion. Due to stress induced expulsion of symbiotic algae. Symbiotic algae. Full stop. The reasons behind coral bleaching are the reasons behind coral bleaching are, okay, point वाइज लिखते जाओ. Increase in water temperature, due to global warming. Next point, changes in salinity. Changes in salinity. Increased sedimentation. Pollution across coastal regions. Pollution across coastal region, such as water pollution, thermal pollution, pollution due to plastic, ocean acidification, next, increased incidence of cyclones and storms, increased incidence of cyclones and storms, next, El Nino, El Nino. So examples of coral bleaching. Examples of coral bleaching. Between 2014 to 2017, okay, this was El Nino years. Between 2014 to 2017, due to El Nino. Between 2014 to 2017, due to El Nino, nearly 50% of Great Barrier Reef, nearly 50% of Great Barrier Reef was bleached. Okay, next, 1997-98. 1997-98. Northern Indian Ocean. Lost majority of its corals. So that is all about coral reefs. Any doubts here? What kind of sponge? उसमें बहुत सारे टाइप हैं. स्पॉन्ज टाइप है ना, बहुत सारे मरीन ऑर्गेनिजम्स है. सो वो भी ओशन फ्लोरिंग, फ्लोर में रहता है. सो नॉट नेसेसरली दे हैव टू बी देयर विद द कोरल रीफ ऑलवेज. सो दे आर देयर एवरीवेयर. सोलर रेडिएशन. सोलर रेडिएशन बोलना मुश्किल है. Any of the coral reefs which grows above the surface of water, definitely they will not be able to survive. Okay, they cannot survive above the water. These are marine organisms. Sometimes they just grow out of the water, or the water level drops. Okay, whenever the water level drops in some of the regions, so the coral reefs are exposed. The exposed ones die off. More than 50% of the marine life will not be able to survive without coral reefs. Coral reefs are the habitat where nearly 50% of the marine life survives. Okay, tropical waters में, temperate regions में है, so वहाँ पर ज़्यादा diversity नहीं है. We know about that. Okay, the diversity of which life which we find in the tropical waters, they are all associated with the coral reefs. Okay, so and huge grounds of fishing grounds जहाँ पर fish ज़्यादा grow होता है, they are all coral reefs. Fish population भी कम हो सकता है. It will not impact the level of water. Coral reefs would not impact the level of water. In fact, level of water will impact the coral reefs. That was also El Nino. 97, 98 is also El Nino year. See, बाकी सारा कारण भी है. El Nino was just a trigger. Okay, it will cause the trigger. It will cause large scale bleaching. क्योंकि ऑलरेडी वल्नरेबल है, ऑलरेडी पोल्यूशन ज़्यादा है, सो ऑलरेडी सेडिमेंटेशन ज़्यादा हो गया. सो बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दिस दे वर एट द वर्ज, दे वर एट द ब्रिंक ऑफ ब्लीचिंग. एल निनो इज जस्ट ए पुश. फाइन, चलो. सो लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक. सो बहुत दिन से वेटिंग है, ओशन करेंट्स. ओशन करेंट्स. सो इस बार भी क्वेश्चन आए हैं, 2 बार क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. ओशन करेंट्स. ऐसा मत सोचो इस बार आ गया तो नेक्स्ट टाइम नहीं आएगा. तो कभी भी आ सकते हैं. Okay, overall heading is ocean currents and circulations. First, what are ocean currents? So ocean currents, whenever we use the word ocean current, remember we are talking about the surface currents. There are 2 types of currents. One is limited to the surface, another bottom. Okay, ocean bottom. Okay, if this is the top layer, if this is the bottom layer, the surface currents are limited to the top layer only. Okay, सबसे ऊपर वाला layer में ही आपको feel करता है. So commonly they should be, technically they should be referred to as surface ocean currents, but the general ocean currents refers to the surface ocean currents only. कि जो deep water में चलता है उसको अलग नाम से ही बुलाते हैं. They are called as thermohaline circulations और deep ocean currents. ठीक है, उनके बारे में separately बात करते हैं. So first of all, what are these ocean currents? Ocean currents are general movement of water of ocean near to the surface in a specific direction, over a long distance, usually throughout the year रहता है. So क्या क्या points बताया? They are the surface movement of water. They are limited to surface. Fine. And they move in a specific direction. एक direction में ही चलता है. They don't change their direction usually. Okay, they move in a particular direction. From equator towards the pole, from pole towards the equator, ऐसे continuously एक ही direction में चलता है. And that too in a particular location of the ocean only. It's not like हर जगह में घूमेगा. In a particular location. For example, these are the ocean currents of the world. Okay, talking about the ocean currents, see, यहाँ पर लिखा है, क्या लिखा है? Gulf Stream. Gulf Stream refers to the movement of hot waters along the eastern coast of USA. USA का ईस्टर्न कोस्ट है, अटलांटिक का वेस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ अटलांटिक नियर टू द यूएसए कोस्ट. हियर इफ यू सी, इफ यू ऑब्जर्व, द वाटर कंटिन्यूसली मूव्स इन दिस डायरेक्शन. इसी डायरेक्शन में जाते हैं, यहां से यहां तक जाते हैं, वो आगे ऐसे डिस्टर्ब हो जाते हैं. सो बट दिस पार्ट इज कॉल्ड एज द गल्फ स्ट्रीम. दे आर लिमिटेड टू द सरफेस. जो उसमें दिखाया था सरफेस के पार्ट में मूव होते हैं, ओके, इन ए पर्टिकुलर डायरेक्शन ओवर ए लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस. इट कवर्स अ वेरी लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस, बहुत दूर दूर तक जाएगा. एंड यूजुअली थ्रू आउट द ईयर ये ऐसा ही फ्लो होता है. Such movement of water within the ocean is called as ocean currents. They're there across different parts of the world, but they are not everywhere. You cannot write Gulf Stream यहां पर, ऐसा नहीं होता, यहां पर ही होगा. इसी को ही Gulf Stream बोलते हैं. So यहां पर जो जाता है इसको बोलते हैं North Atlantic Drift. So this is called as Canary current. इसको Canary current बोलते हैं. They have a specific location in which they flow in a specific direction throughout the year, usually limited to the surface. Okay, limited to the surface. So that is what we called as ocean currents. इसको बोलते हैं ocean currents. So imagine कैसे. So ocean currents can be equated to rivers inside the ocean. It is not very slow movement, fast movement होता है. We can clearly feel, okay, the water is moving in this direction. We can clearly feel, है ना? So particularly, so they are used in navigation, for ships, for boats, even to find direction. Okay, they are used in navigation because we can clearly observe the movement of water. इस direction में चलता है. You may think, मतलब you कैसे होता है, वो कैसे होते हैं वो छोड़ो, मैं समझा दूंगा. First understand what exactly are ocean currents. Ocean currents are this strong movement in a particular direction. Okay, imagine like a rivers inside the ocean. Ocean के अंदर rivers कैसे हो सकता है, वही है ocean currents. ठीक है. So any of you have watched this movie Finding Nemo? देखा है? तो उसमें क्या होता है, द कौन सा है, क्लाउन फिश है ना, वो तो इट गेट लॉस्ट है ना. सो समहाउ इट विल रीच सिडनी तक आ जाता है वहाँ से, यूएसए से. तो उसका पापा तो वहाँ से ढूंढ के आता है इसको. सो व्हाइल क्रॉसिंग, इट क्रॉसेस द एंटायर पैसिफिक ओशन. ठीक है, इट क्रॉस द एंटायर पैसिफिक ओशन. फाइनली आके इट विल लूज इट्स पाथ. when it is about to reach the western coast of Pacific, it will lose its path. It is found by one of group of turtles, है ना. तो उसको लेके जाता है. फिर वो पूछता है, तो मुझे सिडनी जाना है. तो बोलते हैं कैच दिस ईस्ट ऑस्ट्रेलियन करंट. तो आपको डायरेक्टली सिडनी पहुंचा देगा. सो दैट वाज ओशन करेंट्स. वहाँ पर बहुत क्लियरली, बहुत अच्छे से रिप्रेजेंटेशन मतलब दिया है. सो दैट वाज ईस्ट ऑस्ट्रेलियन करंट. तो ईस्ट ऑस्ट्रेलियन करंट यहाँ से ऐसे कंटिन्यूसली आता है. इट मूव्स अलॉन्ग द ईस्टर्न कोस्ट ऑफ ऑस्ट्रेलिया. ऐसे इट कंटिन्यूसली फ्लोस. तो यहां पर बैठ गया तो यहां पर सिडनी पहुंच जाएगा. सो दैट इज व्हाट इज ओशन करेंट्स. ठीक है. सो ओशन करेंट्स आर बेसिकली ए कंटिन्यूअस मूवमेंट ऑफ ओशन वाटर इन ए स्पेसिफिक डायरेक्शन. ठीक है. सो राइट अबाउट दिस डेफिनेशन. इट इज अ जनरल मूवमेंट ऑफ सरफेस वाटर It is a general movement of surface water of the ocean in a definite direction, over long distances. Over long distances. So there are two types of ocean currents. Okay, कौन से? Warm current and cold current. So obvious है बहुत, मतलब warm current तो warm रहते हैं, गर्म रहते हैं, cold current ठंडा रहता है. But other than that, there is another important difference between them. Warm current always moves from tropical region towards polar regions. कोल्ड करंट ऑलवेज मूव्स फ्रॉम पोलर रीजन्स टू ट्रॉपिकल रीजन्स. बहुत क्लियरली हम आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं कि जो भी करंट जो देखो यहां से ऊपर जाता है दैट इज ऑल वार्म करंट्स, ऊपर से नीचे आते हैं दैट इज ऑल कोल्ड करंट. एंड देयर इज नो क्लियर डिफरेंशिएशन ऑफ टेम्परेचर फॉर दिस ओशन करंट्स. देयर इज नो क्लियरली सेट, ठीक है 15 डिग्री तक वार्म है उसके नीचे कोल्ड है, ऐसे कोई नहीं बोलता. It all depends upon the surrounding waters. The current which is flowing from here is warmer. As it reaches the higher parts, it is still warmer than the surrounding cold waters. यहाँ पर तो पूरा polar region है, cold water है, उसके comparison it still remains warmer. देखो यहाँ पर आता है Gulf Stream becomes North Atlantic Drift, and North Atlantic Drift moves towards the north like this. This water is warmer compared to the entire surrounding water of Arctic Ocean. That is why it is called as warm ocean current. At the same time, a part of the same North Atlantic Drift starts to move southwards. ऐसा इस तरफ आ जाता है. Same part, but यहां पर इसको cold ocean current बोलते हैं क्योंकि इसका टेम्परेचर से ज्यादा ये वाला टेम्परेचर है. सराउंडिंग वाटर्स आर वार्मर देन दैट. दैट इज व्हाई इट अपीयर्स कोल्डर. ठीक है. सो इफ यू टच दीज वाटर्स इट बिकम्स वेरी कोल्ड, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी यहां पर बाहर का टेम्परेचर ही ज्यादा है. यहां पर बाहर का टेम्परेचर और सराउंडिंग वाटर्स का टेम्परेचर बहुत कम है, जिसकी वजह से ये पानी गर्म लगता है. दिस व्हाट इज वार्म करंट, दिस इज कोल्ड करंट. इट इज इन कंपैरिजन टू द सराउंडिंग वाटर्स. एंड वार्म करंट ऑलवेज मूव्स फ्रॉम इक्वेटोरियल रीजन टू पोलर रीजन. डायरेक्शन से पता चल जाएगा किस डायरेक्शन से जा रहे. ओके, सो इक्वेटोरियल रीजन टू पोलर रीजन, एंड कोल्ड करंट्स मूव्स फ्रॉम पोलर टू equatorial region. Okay, so there are two types of ocean currents. There are two types of ocean currents. First one, warm current moving from low latitude to high latitude. Cold current from high latitude to low latitude. The factors responsible for the formation of ocean currents or the factors which influence the ocean currents, dono. Overall, what factors which will result in the formation as well as the influencing, which we can also call as the forces behind the ocean currents. So here comes the reason why there is actual movement of ocean water. ऐसे like in a very surprising manner the water moves in a particular direction. It has a particular direction, in a particular location only they move. The first most important force, the factor which is responsible for the ocean current is wind. Wind is the most dominating factor which causes the movement of ocean currents. कैसे? Okay, you take any still water. Okay, let's assume that you're watching a lake or some pond or something. Okay, so in whatever the direction the wind blows, it will carry the surface water in that direction. Right? The wind which is moving on the surface of this water, it will drag this water along with it. And due to the friction, it will drag this water along with this. Water is not very rigid. Land surface जैसे rigid नहीं होता है. थोड़ा सा push करो, it will start to flow. The wind which blows near to the surface, यहाँ पर भी wind है, यहाँ पर भी wind है. The wind which is blowing near to the surface has higher friction force, and that is dragging this entire water which is near to the surface in that particular direction only. If you observe on a pond or lake, it is very easy. जिस direction में जाते हैं उस direction में ऐसे waves जैसे चलता है. The water moves in waves. In the same way, the winds blowing over the water surface drags that surface water in that direction. If this particular part is being dragged, okay, upper part is being dragged in this direction, it will also drag the lower part which is attached to this. It may not be in the same speed, but it will try to drag it along with it. ये सबसे ज्यादा स्पीड में चलता है, इसके साथ में इसको भी खींचता है, इसके साथ में इसको खींचता है, इसके साथ में इसको खींचता है. ऐसा in that way the entire surface water starts to move in that particular direction. For that, the wind should be having sufficient force, and force से ज़्यादा consistency होना चाहिए. Even if it is smaller force, if it is continuously, consistently blowing in that particular direction, it will gradually start to move the water in that particular direction. The first primary force which is responsible for the formation of ocean currents, which causes the ocean currents to move in a particular direction, is wind. It will set the ocean waters in motion. That is wind. Which type of winds? Planetary winds. It is the planetary winds which will push these ocean currents in a particular direction. For example, Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean, in this particular part we have trade winds blowing in this direction. ये जो red color में mark किया, this is the trade wind belt. We have trade winds in this direction. The continuously blowing trade winds will push the waters, ocean waters, in that particular direction. यहां पर जो पानी है, they are continuously pushing them from east to west. ये जो यहां पर जो भी पानी है, it will start to move from east to west in this manner under the influence of trade winds. This results in ocean current here from east to west. The continuously blowing trade wind, one in the northern part, another in the southern part, will continuously drag this ocean water from east to west. Gradually, it results in the development of an ocean current, which we call it as the equatorial current. This is what is north equatorial current. This is what is south equatorial current. This is ocean current. It is setting the ocean water in motion. The primary force which is responsible for it is wind. Okay, the winds, particularly the planetary winds. Once the wind is setting the ocean water in motion, then comes other factors: temperature, salinity and density, okay, temperature, salinity and density. How temperature, salinity and density will cause? It is not the uniformity, rather it is the difference in temperature, salinity and density from one region to another region. Okay, there is no uniformity of temperature, salinity, हमने तो discuss किया. In some places there is high temperature, there is in some place low temperature, high salinity, low salinity. So there is always a difference in these conditions of water. Temperature difference is driven by the difference in heating, sun rays. Sun is also the factor here. So wherever there is a difference, there is a tendency of the water to move from one region to another to balance out that difference. है ना? जैसे pressure gradient force था, which is pushing the wind from one region to another. In the same way, water of same water body having different condition, there is a tendency that the water moves from one region to another region to balance out. So there is a wind which is pushing the water. Now comes the difference of temperature, salinity in different direction. जिस direction में ज़्यादा variation है, उस direction में चले जाता है. Once these equatorial currents, है ना, जो north equatorial current, south equatorial current, they start to move from the wind की वजह से they start to move. यहां से यहां तक आ गया, फिर वहां कहां जाएगा? Here a part of it starts to move towards the north. Here a part of it starts to move towards the south, because there is a huge difference of temperature between the equatorial region and the polar region. There is a temperature difference, hot water, cold water. There is also salinity difference that causes these oceanic currents to move in that particular direction जहां पर differences है. Okay, once the wind sets the ocean current in motion, the difference in the water characteristics guides these ocean water. And these differences, there is a particular pattern in the way it causes the variation. There is a hot temperature, cold temperature, there is a higher salinity, lower salinity. A particular pattern में होते. That's why these ocean currents also catch that particular pattern. And once they are in motion due to the difference in temperature, salinity, all of these factors, then comes the factor of the continents and their coastlines. Most important factor है. Okay, for example, see here. Here there is a north equatorial current. Okay, north equatorial current, south equatorial current है. It is coming and hitting the coast of South America here. The coast is in this direction. इसका coastline ऐसे है. जैसे जैसे पानी ऐसे आएगा, it is also guided in this direction. For example, the south equatorial current is coming and hitting this part of the South America. That is why a part of it gets divided in two branches. A part of it moves north, a part of it moves south. Coastline plays a very important role in deciding the direction of ocean currents. Even though they are trying to move towards the north and south, ऐसे जिस डायरेक्शन में है डिफरेंस है उस डायरेक्शन में जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. द कोस्ट लाइन इज गाइडिंग देम इन विच डायरेक्शन इट हैज टू मूव. देखो यहां पर आते आते ही यहां पर कोस्ट लाइन ऐसे जा रहे, द वाटर ऑल्सो मूव्स इन दिस डायरेक्शन. दे आर गाइडेड बाय द कोस्ट लाइन. फाइन. एंड फिर आएगा हमारा कोरियोलिस फोर्स. एनी body, any mass which is in motion on the surface of earth experiences Coriolis force. So that is why ocean currents which are moving in the north, it experiences deflection towards the right side, and those which are moving towards the south, it experiences deflection towards the left side. ठीक है? So that is the next factor. Okay, continents and coastline, and then Coriolis force. Because of this, overall, it develops a particular pattern of movement. All these factors will result in the development of a particular pattern of movement. It starts with the wind. Wind से शुरू होता है. Okay, it will cause the water to move. Once it is under motion, किस direction में जाना है, ये decide करेगा. The difference in the temperature, the difference in salinity, and the coastline and the Coriolis force will decide in which direction it will move, and gradually it develops a overall pattern. पूरा pattern बना देता है. And that keeps this entire oceanic water under motion. That is what is ocean currents. So is that clear? इसके बारे में दो बार क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. पहली बार, the first factor is wind, which causes the ocean water to move, which drags the ocean water to move. Once it is put in motion, all these differences will guide it, and as per the coastline, the continents and the Coriolis force will decide the direction in which they would be flowing. है ना, यही तो एक्सप्लेन करने. You start with what is ocean currents, then the different factors. एक सिंपल सा डायग्राम बना के वर्ल्ड मैप में you show some of the ocean currents. ठीक है? So write about this. First one, winds. The steady blowing of winds drag the surface water in its direction and brings about the surface flow and steadily sets the water currents in motion. Next point, differences. Okay, second one, differences in temperature and salinity. Differences in temperature and salinity cause the water to move and reduce the variations. Cause the water to move and reduce the variations. Stop. Such differences guide Such differences guide the movement of ocean currents. Third, shape of coastline and topography. Shape of coastline and topography. Modify the ocean current's direction. Modify the ocean current's direction. Fourth, Coriolis force. Coriolis force. It causes ocean currents to deflect right in northern hemisphere, and left in southern hemisphere. Next, ocean currents of the world. Ocean currents of, yes, gravity also influences. That's its influence is more prominent in deep ocean currents. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Deep ocean currents आएगा, वहाँ पर बात करते हैं. Otherwise यहाँ पर भी add कर सकते हो. So but once we talk about that, you'll get it more. Tidal forces से ज़्यादा नहीं है. ठीक है. So here we have to talk about the different ocean currents in different parts of the world. कौन सा ocean currents कहाँ पर है. The best is that we draw it on a world map. Okay, so एक world map लिखो and let's also take a break. That is better utilization of time. So एक world map लिखो, then we'll mark these ocean currents on the world map. I'll show you the overall pattern. It is easier to remember that way. ठीक है. एक पूरा फुल पेज का वर्ल्ड मैप लिखो. सो क्लियर होना चाहिए. वी शुड बी एबल टू ड्रॉ दीस ओशन करेंट्स ओवर देयर. ठीक है. सो बिफोर ब्रेक एंड्स प्लीज कंप्लीट दिस. सो आई एम लीविंग दिस फॉर योर ड्रॉइंग, है ना. देख के तो एटलीस्ट लिख दो ठीक से. Okay, the ocean currents. So here we have to remember the different ocean currents in different parts of the world. कि majorly prelims का ही part है. So otherwise general pattern तो overall याद रखना इतना भी मुश्किल नहीं है. So what are the things which you have to remember here? The first thing, कोई भी ocean current का नाम याद तो रखना ही है. There is no other way. You have to remember the name. Okay. The second one is the type. It can be warm ocean current or cold ocean current. ये तो clear है. Third, direction. Approximate direction तो clear है. Warm तो ऊपर जाता है, cold नीचे आता है. But फिर भी थोड़ा along the coast, in which direction it is moving. सो ये सारा, एंड विच पार्ट ऑफ द ओशन, ओवरऑल रीजन कौन सा है. सो नॉर्थ अटलांटिक ओशन में वेस्टर्न पार्ट है, ईस्टर्न पार्ट है, नॉर्थर्न पार्ट है, सदर्न पार्ट है, एग्जैक्टली कहाँ पर आता है ये पता होना चाहिए. ओके, दीज आर थिंग्स विच यू हैव टू रिमेंबर अबाउट एनी पर्टिकुलर ओशन करेंट्स. चलो, लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द अटलांटिक ओशन. Okay, so you don't have to use any different color code. हमारे अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए I'll use red color for warm currents, and so yellow color is visible. Yes, is it visible? It is visible, no? No? ठीक है. Which one is better, yellow or black? ठीक है, black for cold ocean currents. ठीक है. Atlantic Ocean. So I've already told you there is a trade winds in the northern and trade wind in the south, and that causes the water from east to west to move continuously in this direction. Okay, the northern trade winds, that is the trade winds in the northern belt, northern hemisphere, the trade winds in the southern hemisphere, it causes the movement of water continuously to be pushed in this direction. Okay, so that generates an ocean current which is called as north equatorial current, and in the south, towards the south of equator, we have south equatorial current. Okay, north equatorial current and south equatorial current. So imagine if the water is continuously moving from east to west, the currents are very strong, it causes the water to move from east to west. यहाँ पर तो फिर पानी खत्म हो जाएगा continuously, फिर यहाँ पर तो pile up होते जाएगा, right? The accumulation of both the currents, the convergence of both the currents along the western ocean, the western part of the Atlantic Ocean, generates a counter current to flow back. Because both the currents are moving in this direction and the waters are accumulating, there is a deficiency, there is higher water, यहाँ पर ज़्यादा है, यहाँ पर कम है, that will push some of the water to move back in opposite direction exactly along the equator in between these two currents. Okay, so in between these two currents we experience a current which moves in opposite direction. Between the northern equatorial current and the southern equatorial current, in between it is counter equatorial current. Counter equatorial current. ठीक है, इसके बारे में ब्रीफली लिखो. अटलांटिक ओशन का थोड़ा सा ब्रीफली लिखते हैं, बाकी सब तो जस्ट लिस्ट कर लिया तो ओवरऑल पैटर्न याद हो जाएगा. द करेंट्स ऑफ अटलांटिक ओशन, फर्स्ट वन नॉर्थ इक्वेटोरियल करंट एंड साउथ इक्वेटोरियल करंट. नॉर्थ इक्वेटोरियल करंट एंड साउथ इक्वेटोरियल करंट driven by trade winds, driven by trade winds from east to west. Driven by trade winds from east to west. So next, counter equatorial current. Counter equatorial current. Okay, it is also referred to as equatorial counter current. दोनों सेम ही है. Okay, caused due to the merging of north equatorial current and south equatorial current, due to merging of north equatorial current and south equatorial current on the western side, which flows from west to east, in between them, that is counter equatorial current. ठीक है. So overall, now try to see the overall coastline. Coastline किस तरफ है? यहां पर तो coastline is going in this direction, here it is going in this direction. So it is very obvious that north equatorial current का जो पानी है ऐसे डाइवर्ट होते जाएगा. However, the south equatorial current will get bifurcated into two parts, one towards the north, another towards the south. Okay, south का जो south equatorial current का part है, it is hitting this part. It will get bifurcated into two parts, one towards the north, another towards the south. Now the combined water of northern part of south equatorial current as well as the north equatorial current will move towards the Caribbean islands. It is the combined waters which will move towards the Caribbean islands. है ना, ये है हमारा Caribbean islands. So it is a huge island rising from the ocean floor. Ocean floor से ऊपर है. It's a huge landmass which will bifurcate this water into two. The same water is bifurcated into two parts here. The combined water of north equatorial current and south equatorial current का जो north portion है, the northern part of south equatorial current and the north equatorial current will move towards the will move towards the Caribbean Sea, and the Caribbean islands will bifurcate this water into two parts. One moves towards the western side, another moves towards the eastern side. The current which moves along the eastern side is called as Antilles current. It's called as Antilles because these islands are called as Antilles. Greater Antilles, Lesser Antilles, that is what they are called as. So that's why this current which is flowing towards the eastern side is called as Antilles current. Antilles current. Okay, this is Antilles current. Whereas the western one, इसके लिए कोई specific नाम नहीं है, इस तरफ से आएगा, it enters the Gulf of Mexico and guided by the coastline, it will take it पूरा ऐसे सर्कल बना के ऐसे इस तरफ से बाहर निकल के आ जाएगा. Okay, let me just show this part. Okay, the western side of Antilles current divided by the Caribbean islands, this part enters the Gulf of Mexico and it comes out through the other part, okay, where there is Florida. This is what is Florida, right? Florida से बाहर निकल के आएगा and again here it will merge with the Antilles current. यहां पर bifurcate हो गया, फिर ये अंदर से घूम के आके फिर वापस इससे merge हो गया. And now this combined current is flowing along the coast of Florida. And this is what we call it as the Florida current. Along the coast of Florida, the combined waters of Antilles current and the water which is coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. This combined water is called as the Florida current. ठीक है? So now the same Florida current, once it crosses the coast of Florida, it will be guided in this direction by the coast of USA. USA की coast ऐसे जाएगा. This water is also flowing in this direction. And यहां पर इसका नाम चेंज हो जाता है. फ्लोरिडा के बगल में फ्लोरिडा करंट बोलते हैं, बट उसके आगे बोलते हैं इसको गल्फ स्ट्रीम. गल्फ स्ट्रीम क्योंकि इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द गल्फ द गल्फ ऑफ मैक्सिको, है ना, इससे आ रहा है ना, तो इसलिए यहां पर गल्फ स्ट्रीम बोलते हैं. एक्चुअली यहां पर गल्फ स्ट्रीम बोलना चाहिए था, यहां पर नहीं बोलते, यहां पर इसको गल्फ स्ट्रीम बोलते हैं. ओके, सो नाम ऐसे रखा है तो क्या करें. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज गल्फ स्ट्रीम. दिस इज गल्फ स्ट्रीम. गल्फ स्ट्रीम, रिमेंबर, इट फ्लोज अलोंग द ईस्टर्न कोस्ट ऑफ यूएसए. सो वंस इट इज कमिंग टुवर्ड्स दिस रीजन, यहां ये जो आइलैंड है, दिस इज अ वेरी बिग आइलैंड. कौन सा आइलैंड है? नोवा स्कॉशिया नीचे है, ऊपर वाला Newfoundland Island. It's called as Newfoundland Island, one of the largest fishing bank. So once it crosses this particular region, it is under the active influence of westerlies. Westerlies बहुत strong है, and higher latitude में आ गया, Coriolis force का भी ज़्यादा deflection हो जाएगा, because of which the entire current gets deflected towards the right side. The entire current totally gets deflected towards the right side. दो कारण है, क्या है? Coriolis force as well as under the influence of westerlies. So this part beyond Newfoundland Island is called as North Atlantic Drift. North Atlantic Drift. Drift and current is used interchangeably. थोड़ा बहुत ज़्यादा strong force हो गया तो उसको drift बोलते हैं, and a weak movement is gradually generally considered as current. But otherwise there is no actual differentiation. Both can be used interchangeably. Here it is called as North Atlantic Drift because it's in the northern Atlantic part. North Atlantic Drift, it's a warm current. Okay, coming here, it is bringing the warm waters. Now this North Atlantic Drift is crossing the Atlantic Ocean from west to east. It is crossing the Atlantic Ocean from west to east and reach the eastern part, where we have this Western Europe, which is a huge landmass, which will divide it into two branches. One moves along the coast of UK as well as Norway and joins the cold waters of Arctic Ocean. वहां पर जाके merge हो जाएगा वहां पर. Another part gets divided towards the south and moves along the western coast of Africa as well as the coast of Portugal, Spain, Portugal. ठीक है. So this northern part is called as both. इसको North Atlantic Drift भी बोलते हैं और it is also called as Irminger current. Okay, इसको बोलते हैं Irminger current or it's also called as North Atlantic Drift. Here it is moving along the western coast of Africa. This becomes a cold ocean current, which is called as the Canary current. Canary. So why Canary? Because यहाँ पर एक island है, group of islands, they are called as the Canary Islands. ठीक है. So here in this region only there is group of islands called as Canary Islands. That's why it's called as Canary current. So now this North Atlantic Drift, the same water, can you see that this part is moving towards the north, this is moving towards the south. This is entering the cold waters, this is entering the warm waters. That is why this becomes a warm current, this becomes a cold current. ठीक है. This is cold Canary current. ठीक है. So लिखो. Counter equatorial current तक हुआ था ना. The next point. The south equatorial current is bifurcated near Brazil. South equatorial current, SEC, south equatorial current is bifurcated near Brazil. And the northern branch joins North Equatorial Current, NEC. Northern branch joins North Equatorial Current. Full stop. The combined water flows towards Caribbean islands. the combined waters flow towards Caribbean islands. Stop. Some part of this current flows on the eastern side of the Caribbean as क्या बोलते हैं उसको, एंटिलेस करंट. So stop. The rest of the water enters. Caribbean Sea. And then Gulf of Mexico. Next point. The current coming out of the Gulf merges with Antilles current and flows across the southeast coast of USA. As Florida current. Next point. Along the eastern coast of USA, it is called as the Gulf Stream. Next point. The Gulf Stream beyond the Newfoundland Island. Turns right under the combined effect of westerlies and Coriolis force. And flows as North Atlantic drift. Next point. It crosses the Atlantic Ocean. And reaches the west coast of Europe. And gets bifurcated into two parts. Stop. The northern part along the coast of England, or Norway, flows as North Atlantic Drift, or Irminger Current, towards the Arctic Ocean. Next point. The southern part flows towards the equator as Cold Canary Current, and joins the North Equatorial Current, Is that right? देखो वापस कैनरी करंट आके it will join the North Equatorial Current. That completes the circulation. So यहां से गया था पूरा ऐसे, part of it moves over there, part of it comes back here. That is continuously moving. In this for our understanding we have drawn these ऐसे लिखा है, but ऐसे इतना sharp turn तो नहीं होगा. Overall this is a general movement. Direction clearly दिखता है. Okay, for example if you go back to this, इसमें देखो, so ऐसे जाएगा North Equatorial Current, some of it moves here, some of it comes out Gulf Stream, North Atlantic Drift, a part of it will come back. ऐसे continuously चलता है, part of it moves over there. So now in this part of Northern Atlantic Ocean you can clearly see at the central part there is no movement of ocean water. ये तो पूरा still है, stagnant है. It is surrounded by the ocean currents on all the sides. The entire Northern Atlantic Ocean is surrounded by oceanic currents on all the sides, where the water is continuously moving in a particular direction. In this case, it is clockwise direction. ऐसे continuously चलता रहता है. So boundaries में, edges में तो continuously चलेगा. Center में the water remains stagnant, and this stagnant water also comes slowly under the influence of this motion and slowly circulates in this manner. Slowly ऐसे घूमता है. Not as fast of this. It slowly circulates. It's almost stagnant but slowly circulates. In this kind of stagnant water, okay, particularly in Northern Atlantic Ocean, a specific type of seaweed grows here. Okay, seaweed आते हैं and they are very large. पूरा यहाँ पर cover कर लेता है. So that is what we call it as the sargasso. The seaweed is called as sargasso. That's why this water is called as Sargasso Sea. इसको बोलते हैं Sargasso Sea. ठीक है? And this entire slow circulating movement of this central water under the influence of ocean currents which are surrounding it is called as gyre. That water body which is there at the center, which is slowly continuously moving under the influence of the ocean currents, is called as gyre. Gyre, gyre. Okay, here in this part, this water is given a specific name, that is what is Sargasso Sea. Sargasso Sea is part of this gyre which is there in the Northern Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so write about this. Next point. In the North Atlantic Ocean, the continuous circulation of water in a clockwise direction in a clockwise direction results in the slow movement of water within which is called as gyre, gyre, gyre. Full stop. Within this gyre, a type of seaweed grows. A type of seaweed grows in large quantity. Called as sargasso. Therefore, the sea is called as Sargasso Sea. So this is about currents of North Atlantic Ocean. In addition to this, there are two more cold ocean currents which are coming from Arctic region. Arctic region se aate hain, it will join the warm waters. Okay, so in this gap, can you see between Greenland and Canada there is a gap. Here some of the waters from Arctic region enters and flows towards this direction. Here some of the water enters and flows towards in this direction. These are cold ocean currents caused due to the movement of water from the Arctic Sea. Okay, the first one here, one which flows between Greenland and Canada is called as Labrador current. The first one is called as Labrador current. Inka direction important hai. It is coming from north to south and is merging with the warm water. Second, the one which is blowing between Greenland and Iceland is called as East Greenland current. East Greenland current. Okay, location बहुत important है. East Greenland current flows between Greenland and Iceland. Labrador current flows between Canada and Greenland. Labrador current आके यहाँ पर join करता है. It's almost joins the Gulf Stream. Okay, still Newfoundland Island, it is called as Gulf Stream only, right? So that is why Labrador current is said to be joining the Gulf Stream. But East Greenland current joins the North Atlantic Drift. Okay, it joins somewhere here. तब तक को इसको North Atlantic Drift बुला देते हैं. But यहाँ पर जो join करते हैं, till here near to the Newfoundland Island, it is called as Gulf Stream only. So that is why Newfoundland Island is one of the largest fishing ground, where there is a merging of warm and cold ocean current. Wherever warm and cold ocean currents merge, it results in the creation of conditions which is very ideal for the growth of planktons. What are planktons? Microorganisms. These are the producers in the ecosystem. जो producer है, जो जैसे land के ऊपर plants होते हैं, जो ocean में planktons होते हैं. These are the ones which produce the food through photosynthesis. है ना? So wherever they grow in large numbers, the fish is also found in large number. So यहाँ पर बहुत ज़्यादा fish मिलता है near to the Newfoundland Island. The reason is the merging of warm and cold ocean current. यही क्वेश्चन आया था इस बार. The impact of ocean currents on the fishing industry. है ना? और थोड़ा सा बात कर सकते हैं इसके ऊपर. So you will understand. Economic activities में हम बात करते हैं. ठीक है? So here the merging of Labrador current with the Gulf Stream creates the condition ideal here. And again East Greenland current also merging with North Atlantic Drift. Okay, right about this. There are two cold ocean currents. In North Atlantic Ocean. From Arctic Ocean. from Arctic Ocean. Okay, in that first one, Labrador current. Labrador current. Why it is called as Labrador current? Labrador Sea भी है and Labrador region है. This eastern Canada, this part is called as Labrador. This is what is Labrador. ठीक है? Labrador current flowing between Canada and Greenland and merges with the Gulf Stream. Second, East Greenland current. Between Greenland and Iceland. Merging with North Atlantic Drift. That is about the currents of Northern Atlantic Ocean. So is that all clear? Let's talk about the currents of South Atlantic Ocean. So here I told you the South Equatorial Current gets bifurcated into two parts. The northern part merges with the North Equatorial Current. The southern part flows across the coast of Brazil. Okay, it flows across the coast of Brazil as Brazilian current. Okay, across the coast of Brazil as Brazilian current. The same Brazilian current, once it reaches the lower latitudes, it starts to get deflected towards the right side. Under the influence of westerlies as well as Coriolis force. As it starts to move towards the south, it gets deflected towards the right under the influence of westerlies and Coriolis force. And then it will cross the South Atlantic Ocean from west to east as the same South Atlantic Drift. Okay, it will move from west to east as South Atlantic Drift. Okay, यहाँ पर एक correction. The South Atlantic Drift is not warm, it is cold. ठीक है? I'll tell you why. Around the continent of Antarctica, it is strongly surrounded by the westerly belt. The entire continent of Antarctica is strongly surrounded by westerly belt. Is that right? This is our Antarctica. So westerly belt कहां तक है? This is what is westerly belt. There is no landmass which causes them to move continuously fast. उसको क्या बोलते हैं हम? Furious 40s. Roaring 40s, Furious 50s, Streaking 60s. इसलिए कि क्योंकि लैंडमास है ही नहीं है. अगर लैंडमास नहीं है, the winds are strong. Wind strong है तो it also causes this water to move continuously in the same direction. The entire waters around Antarctica is continuously being circulated around it from west to east. There is no stoppage for this. There is no stopping for this. This is continuously circulating around Antarctica. Antarctica तो बहुत cold है, इसका पानी भी बहुत ठंडा रहता है. That is why this is a cold ocean current. This continuous movement of water around the continent of Antarctica is called as west wind drift. They are driven by westerlies. Okay, driven by westerlies, the cold waters around Antarctica is very, very strong. Okay, this is one of the strongest current. It's a cold current. Okay, पहले से ही cold है, Antarctica वैसे ये cold ही रहेगा. And this is continuously moving from west to east. It is found in all the oceans. The southern part of Atlantic Ocean, the southern part of Indian Ocean, as well as southern part of Pacific Ocean. हर जगह में मिलेगा. So that waters we call it as the west wind drift. उसके south में आएगा Southern Ocean. Southern Ocean तो 60 डिग्री से नीचे ही है. So it is slightly towards the north of it. The west wind drift is a strong cold current which surrounds the entire continent of Antarctica under the influence of westerlies. So now, if you come to the southern Atlantic Ocean, so this is where we have west wind drift, which is continuously circulating Antarctica. So now this Brazilian current get mixed up with the west wind drift. That is why it also becomes very cold. ये तो इसका इंटेंसिटी बहुत ज्यादा है, ब्राजीलियन करंट तो बहुत कम है, ऑलरेडी आधा तो ऊपर चला गया. A part of it is moving down and it is getting mixed with the cold west wind drift. Even that becomes cold. It moves along the west wind drift and a part of it joins the west wind drift and a part of it moves north along the western coast of South Africa. है ना, ये तो सर्कुलेशन कंप्लीट करना ही है ना. A part of it moves north under the influence of along the coast of western part of South Africa. Okay, here comes Namibia, right? So यहाँ पर है Namib desert. The current which is causing the cold and dry condition is Benguela current. Okay, it is called as Benguela current. Here it is Brazilian current, here it is Benguela current. Benguela current moves north and joins the south equatorial current, completes the circulation. And here also there is another gyre. Okay, this has created another gyre here, but here it is in a counterclockwise direction. यहाँ का जो central water है that is stagnant and but it is moving continuously, slowly. This is another gyre. यहाँ पर एक continuous हो गया circulation. तो यहाँ से आएगा, it moves down and moves up and continuously causing the circulation. These are the ocean currents of South Atlantic Ocean. ठीक है? Read about this. Currents of South Atlantic Ocean. The southern branch of, first point, the southern branch of South Equatorial Current, SEC. The southern branch of South Equatorial Current moves along the coast of Brazil. Moves along the coast of Brazil as Brazilian current, as Brazilian current. Next point, at higher latitudes, the Brazilian current is deflected towards the left, and flows as and flows as South Atlantic Drift, next point, the absence of landmass, and strong westerlies causes a continuous flow of water without any obstruction at mid latitudes from west to east in the southern hemisphere surrounding Antarctica. The southern hemisphere surrounding Antarctica as cold west wind drift. Cold west wind drift. Next point, the South Atlantic drift. The South Atlantic drift merges with west wind drift. Near the Cape of Good Hope. Sorry. Merges with west wind drift, full stop लगा दो. Near the Cape of Good Hope, a part of it diverts north as cold Benguela current. Which joins the South Equatorial current. So along with this, there is another cold ocean current here. So this is the southern part of South America. Along the tip of South America, there is an island here, Falkland Island. Okay, FALK, Falkland Island. So this is under the control of British. UK का control में है. Okay, of course, Argentina is saying that this belongs to us, so there is a dispute over there. So यहाँ पर एक cold ocean current आता है, Falkland current. So there is a Falkland current. It comes and it merges with the Brazilian current. Next point, the cold Falkland current, FALK, Falkland current. The cold Falkland current flows near the southeast coast of South America. Southeast coast of South America and merges with the Brazilian current. merges with Brazilian current. These are the currents of Atlantic Ocean. देखो यहां पर याद रखना जो एक्चुअल काम है बस नाम ही है. एक बार एक करंट पकड़ लिया तो सारा सीक्वेंस में आ जाएगा. ट्राई टू रिमेंबर इन दैट सीक्वेंशियल ऑर्डर, ट्राई टू डू इट थ्रू दिस मैप. ये जो मैप के ऊपर आप लगा रहे हो, चाहिए तो इसको दोबारा लिख के या दूसरी पेज में लिख के दीवार पे लगा देना. 2-3 बार देख लिया तो सारा याद हो जाएगा. यू जस्ट हैव टू रिमेंबर द नेम्स एंड देयर ऑर्डर. एक सीक्वेंशियल ऑर्डर में ऐसे ही कंटिन्यूसली याद रख लिया, उसका डायरेक्शन से बहुत क्लियरली समझ आ जाएगा. इट स्टार्ट फ्रॉम नॉर्थ इक्वेटोरियल करंट, साउथ इक्वेटोरियल करंट ऑपोजिट में होगा काउंटर इक्वेटोरियल करंट. South equatorial current gets divided into two branches. One part moves towards the north, another moves towards the south, and this part merges with the north equatorial current. And combined water moves along the coast of along Caribbean Sea, Caribbean islands. A part of it moves towards the east as Antilles current. Part of it moves towards the west, and this comes inside the Gulf, okay, Mexican Gulf, Gulf of Mexico, and comes out and flows us Florida current. The combined water is called as Florida current. This Florida current takes the name of Gulf Stream along the eastern coast of USA. Gulf Stream becomes North Atlantic drift once it turns towards the right, and it gets divided into two branches, one to more towards the north as North Atlantic drift or Irminger current, and another towards the south as Cold Canary current. Okay, complete the circulation. Two more currents, one is Labrador current, another one is East Greenland current, merges with the Florida current, the Gulf Stream and the North Atlantic drift. In the southern part, the southern branch of South Equatorial current moves along the coast of Brazil as Brazilian current. Then it turns towards the left and joins the west wind drift. Okay, it becomes part of the west wind drift, that is South Atlantic drift. A part of it moves towards the north as Benguela current and joins back the South Equatorial current. Here there is a gyre, northern gyre, this is southern gyre. This northern gyre is specific type of seaweed is grown, that is what is Sargasso. That's why it is called as Sargasso Sea. Southern में there is no specific name, it is just a gyre. ठीक है. These are the currents of Atlantic Ocean, जिसका डिटेलली मैंने लिखवा दिया, बाकी सब नाम लिखो काफी है. Okay, so you can read about this. So ऐसे you just have to remember the names only. इसी के ऊपर ही क्वेश्चन आएगा. बट अगर गलती से ऐसे ही कभी मेंस का क्वेश्चन आ गया तो ओवरऑल एक मैप ड्रॉ करके you just have to show the different currents. And easily you can write. So the next one, the currents of Pacific Ocean. Currents of Pacific Ocean. Here you can see we have a very wide Pacific Ocean near to the equator, तो बहुत ज़्यादा wide है from eastern to western part. There is a strong influence of trade winds, both northern trade winds as well as southern trade winds. Here also it generates the north equatorial current. Here it generates the north equatorial current, south equatorial current and counter equatorial current. सेम ही है, यहाँ पर भी सेम ही है. ठीक है. सो फॉलो दिस नॉर्थ इक्वेटोरियल करंट. सो लिस्ट भी करते जाओ, लिखते जाओ बगल में करंट्स ऑफ पैसिफिक ओशन. सो यू जस्ट हैव टू राइट फर्स्ट वन नॉर्थ इक्वेटोरियल करंट एंड साउथ इक्वेटोरियल करंट एंड काउंटर इक्वेटोरियल करंट. एक्सप्लेनेशन तो सेम ही है वहां पर जो भी लिखा है. ओके, जस्ट लिस्ट इट. Okay, follow this north equatorial current. North equatorial current is coming here and here it is hitting a huge archipelago, Philippines archipelago, Indonesian archipelago. This is a huge landmass. This entire landmass will divert this water and this water flows along the coast of Philippines as well as along the coast of Japan. इसको ऐसे divert करेगा because it's a huge landmass rising from the oceanic floor, right? So it will divert it. So along the coast of Philippines and along the coast of Japan, it is called as Kuroshio current. कुरोशियो करंट. ओके, जापानीज नेम है कुरोशियो. कुरोशियो करंट. ओके, नेक्स्ट वन कुरोशियो करंट. जगह कहां पर है? अलोंग फिलीपींस एंड जापान. फिर यहां पर आते आते इट कम्स अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ वेस्टर्लीज एंड द कुरिलिस फोर्स. इट टर्न्स टोटली राइट एंड क्रॉसेस द नॉर्थ पैसिफिक ओशन, which is commonly called as North Pacific Current or North Pacific Drift. Kuroshio becomes North Pacific Drift or North Pacific Current. ओके, नेक्स्ट हो गया नॉर्थ पैसिफिक ड्रिफ्ट. सेम वहां पर नॉर्थ अटलांटिक ड्रिफ्ट है, यहां पर भी वैसा ही है, सेम कंडीशन है. So now this North Pacific drift, by reaching the western coast, it hits the landmass, it gets divided into two branches. One moves along the northern part, another moves towards the southern part. Along the northern part, it is moving towards the Alaska. So this is what is warm Alaska current. Because there is a warm water moving into the area of cold, it becomes warm current. The same water moving into the much warmer area, it becomes a cold current. Okay, the North Pacific drift gets bifurcated into two parts. One is warm Alaska current and second one is cold Californian current, because it is flowing along the coast of California. Remember, Alaska current is warm. Alaska current is warm. It has the same impact as that of North Atlantic drift. ये भी warm ही है, वो भी warm ही है. यहां पर है cold Californian current. Here it is cold Canary current. Cold Canary current will join back the North Equatorial current and completes another gyre here. यहां पर भी एक gyre होगा. So यहाँ पर तो naturally सरगैसो सी है. सरगैसो is a weed which grows naturally here. यहाँ पर कोई weed grow नहीं करता है, इसलिए हमने बहुत ज़्यादा प्लास्टिक डंप कर दिया. So प्लास्टिक हमने डंप नहीं किया, overall over a long period of time it has just come into the ocean and it has filled this entire northern Pacific region. Northern Pacific region में there is a huge garbage patch which is called as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is majorly made up of plastic. Okay, it's a huge trophy for all our human activities. The way we have changed the oceanic waters. This is huge layer of plastic waste which accumulates in this part, and they are also influenced by this ocean current. पूरा surrounded हो गया ocean current से, बीच में पूरा stagnant हो गया. That is Great Pacific Garbage Patch. ठीक है. यहां पर दो और cold ocean currents है. ओके, नाम थोड़ा सा अजीब सा है, कोशिश करो याद रखने के लिए. वन इज ओयाशियो करंट, अनदर वन इज ओखोट्स्क करंट. ओके, ओयाशियो. ठीक है, कुरोशियो से ओयाशियो भी याद रहेगा. देन ओखोट्स्क, OKHOTSK, Okhotsk. Two cold currents, Oyashi current and then Okhotsk current. Both of them join the Kuroshio current and North Atlantic drift. Sorry, North Pacific drift. Oyashio current and Okhotsk current. Okay. ओके, दो कोल्ड ओशन करंट है, बस नाम याद रखना है, ओवरऑल डायरेक्शन तो पता है, फ्रॉम नॉर्थ टू साउथ. इट मर्जेस विथ विच पार्ट? इट मर्जेस विथ कुरोशियो एंड नॉर्थ पैसिफिक ड्रिफ्ट. हो गया. दीज आर द करंट्स ऑफ नॉर्थ पैसिफिक ओशन. साउथ पैसिफिक देखो, साउथ अटलांटिक, साउथ इक्वेटोरियल करंट टर्न्स साउथ अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ सम ऑफ द लैंड मास, जो आइलैंड वगैरह है यहां से, इसकी वजह से ये टर्न हो जाते. So this current which is flowing along the eastern coast of Australia is called as East Australian current, है ना, जो हमारा नीमो का फादर ने पकड़ा था. And that was East Australian current. And then again it will join the west wind drift and becomes cold. Okay, this is west wind drift. The South Pacific drift is merged with the west wind drift, and now a part of it turns north here. The way यहाँ पर बेंगुला करंट टर्न हुआ था, यहाँ पर भी ऐसे ही थोड़ा सा टर्न होता है, बट ये बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, आगे आएगा काम, अभी के लिए याद रखो. दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट करंट. इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड अस कोल्ड पेरू करंट एंड ऑल्सो नोन बाय द नेम हमबोल्ट. हु इज हमबोल्ट? So he's a very famous geographer, very famous geographer. He himself discovered this. Okay, इनमें से ओयाशियो कौन सा है, ओकोट्स कौन सा है? नहीं, राइट ओयाशियो. This is ओयाशियो, this is ओकोट्स्क. ठीक है. सो इसका बस लिस्ट कर दो, डिस्क्रिप्शन तो सही है, सेम वहां पर जैसे मूवमेंट हुआ था, सेम फैक्टर्स आल्सो डिसाइड द मूवमेंट हियर. So what are the currents of Pacific Ocean? North equatorial current, south equatorial current, counter equatorial current. North equatorial current turns towards the north and moves along the coast of Philippines and Japan as Kuroshio current. Kuroshio current merges with two cold ocean currents, Okhotsk and Oyashio current, and moves towards the east, crossing the North Pacific Ocean as North Pacific drift. It gets bifurcated into two parts. One moves along the coast of Alaska as warm Alaska current, and another moves along the coast of California as cold Californian current. Completes another gyre here. South equatorial current turns left and moves along the eastern coast of Australia as East Australian current and merges with, and then again turns left under the influence of westerlies as well as Coriolis force, merges with west wind drift, and then a part of it flows towards the north along the coast of South America, western coast of South America, as cold Peru current or cold Humboldt current. Okay, there is another gyre here. Okay, not that difficult at all. You just have to try to remember the names. Once you remember the names, follow the pattern. Okay, you will get everything required. Okay, which type it is, warm or cold, pattern से समझ आ जाएगा. Okay, किस direction में जाएगा, किस coast में है, कौन सी region में है. It is very easy to remember. You just have to follow the pattern. Now, the currents of Indian Ocean. Currents of Indian Ocean. Southern Indian Ocean is similar to the other parts of the ocean, whereas Northern Indian Ocean is slightly different from the other oceans. Southern Indian Ocean में almost same pattern ही रहेगा. Northern Indian Ocean थोड़ा बहुत different है. Why? It is surrounded by land. whereas other oceans are open, they are connected with the Arctic Ocean. यहाँ पर तो पानी बहुत easily flow हो सकते हैं, यहाँ पर तो it is totally surrounded by land. Because of that, the currents of Northern Indian Ocean is slightly different. Okay, we'll come to that. Before that, we'll see Southern Indian Ocean. The currents of Southern Indian Ocean. Here also it is the same. North equatorial current, South equatorial current, and then counter equatorial current. North equatorial current, South equatorial current, and counter equatorial current. The south equatorial current turns towards the south. Here it's the island of Madagascar. It gets bifurcated into two parts. One part moves towards inside, another part outside. One towards the east of Madagascar, another towards the west of Madagascar. The current which flows between Madagascar and Mozambique is called as Mozambique current. The current which flows between Madagascar and Mozambique. Here it is the country of Mozambique. है ना, इस कोस्ट में मोजाम्बिक है, दैट इज व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड एज मोजाम्बिक करंट. इट इज द कंबाइंड वाटर ऑफ मोजाम्बिक करंट एंड द करंट विच फ्लोज टुवर्ड्स द ईस्ट. दोनों मर्ज हो जाएगा एंड फ्लोज हियर, एंड दिस कंबाइंड वाटर इज कॉल्ड एज अगुलास करंट. Agulhas current. Okay, Mozambique. Here it is Mozambique. देखो बहुत सिंपल है. South equatorial current moves towards the south. It gets bifurcated by Madagascar. Madagascar will divide into two parts. One part towards the east, another towards the west. The western part is actually given the name Mozambique current. Eastern part के लिए कोई नाम नहीं है. ठीक है? Only the western part is called as the Mozambique current. It flows between Madagascar and Mozambique. It comes out and joins the eastern part. And that combined water is called as Agulhas current. Agulhas is a warm current. Now this Agulhas current is under the influence of westerlies and Coriolis force, turns left and joins the west wind drift. And now a part of it again gets bifurcated, moves towards the north along the western coast of Australia, which is called as West Australian current. Here it is East Australian current, which is warm current. West Australian current is a cold current. ठीक है, कौन कौन सा है? South equatorial current, Mozambique current, Agulhas current, west wind drift, and then West Australian current. West Australian current will join the South equatorial current and creates a gyre here. हो गया. Now the currents of North Indian Ocean. Currents of North Indian Ocean. See, what causes the movement of water? Wind. Most primary force है wind. North Indian Ocean is known for a very strong movement of winds, which is called as monsoon winds, in both the seasons, during the summers as well as winters. During the summers, the monsoon winds blow from southwest direction. Okay, during the summers, the monsoon winds blow in southwest direction, in this direction. there is a strong winds in this direction. During the winters, there is a wind in opposite direction. These factor, the movement of wind is changing here between summers and winter, combined with the overall the presence of land which is totally enclosing it. अगर पूरा के पूरा ओपन ओशन है तो इतना ज्यादा इंपैक्ट नहीं रहेगा. द लैंड इज कंप्लीटली कवरिंग इट. This will change the overall pattern of current itself in the northern Indian Ocean. As compared to the other oceans, Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, where the ocean water is dominating, ocean currents are dominating and flows in a very particular direction. Here, it is the wind and the presence of land which is the most dominating factor, which will change the entire current orientation itself. यहाँ पर भी currents होगा, but they are totally depend upon the wind direction. And they also change their direction as per the winds. Okay, उनका डायरेक्शन भी चेंज हो जाता है. एंड दीज आर नॉट वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग करेंट्स. द वे वी हैव नॉर्थ अटलांटिक ड्रिफ्ट, नॉर्थ पैसिफिक ड्रिफ्ट, कुरोशियो करंट, है ना, गल्फ स्ट्रीम, इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग करंट्स है. यहां पर इतना ज्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग करंट्स फील नहीं होता है. बट स्टिल वी कैन सी दैट द वाटर मूव्स इन द डायरेक्शन ऑफ विंड. थोड़ा सा उस डायरेक्शन में चलता है. ठीक है. सो स्टिल वी आइडेंटिफाई द करेंट्स हियर. ओके, during the winters, okay, let's talk about winters. Winters, what is the direction of wind? The wind is coming from northeast direction. That will push this entire waters of northern Indian Ocean in its direction, in the same direction. देखो, इसी डायरेक्शन में लेके आता है. And the overall coast will guide this water. पानी यहाँ पर इस डायरेक्शन में पुश होता है ना. So this water is moving along this and it is being pushed in this direction. And it comes here and joins back the counter equatorial current and flows back here. Counter equatorial current तो वैसे ही है. Okay, there is a north equatorial current, south equatorial current. Between counter equatorial current is there. The entire water of the northern Indian Ocean, including Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, moves in counterclockwise direction under the influence of northeast monsoon winds. And these waters which are moving under the influence of northeast monsoon, in which direction? In counterclockwise direction. These ocean currents are called as northeast monsoon drift. It is called as northeast monsoon drift, driven by northeast monsoon winds. I'm telling you again, these are not very strong currents. Just the water is slowly moving due to the wind movement in that particular direction. That is what we call as northeast monsoon drift. This is moving in a counterclockwise direction. What about summer? See, the northeast monsoon is monsoon winds coming from the land to ocean. Okay, land to ocean. The southwest monsoon comes from ocean to land. And southwest monsoon is a very, very strong wind. Because it is not only the pressure difference which is causing this, there are few other factors. The jet streams are involved, the high pressure, low pressure belt is involved, बहुत सारा factors है, पूरा हम डिटेल में बात करेंगे इंडियन ज्योग्राफी में. So अभी के लिए इतना समझो कि this southwest monsoon is a very strong winds experienced than the northeast monsoon. इतना strong हो जाते, it will disrupt the entire equatorial current. Only south equatorial current ही रहेगा. There is no north equatorial current, there is no counter equatorial current. Everything is disrupted. It will be disrupted totally by this southwest monsoon and it causes this entire water to move in its direction. इसको ऐसे continuously push करता है. तो ये इस तरफ जाएगा, थोड़ा सा वापस आ जाएगा and joins the south equatorial current back. The entire water of the northern Indian Ocean is pushed by this southwest monsoon in this direction. This continuously gets pushed and comes back and joins the south equatorial current and again gets pushed and comes back and joins this. So this part of this water which is flowing this time in a clockwise direction. It is going in a clockwise direction, right? That is what we call it as the southwest monsoon drift under the influence of southwest monsoon winds. ठीक है? So ये change about Northern Indian Ocean. ठीक है, इसके बारे में लिखो. The currents of Northern Indian Ocean. Okay, first point. In winters, the north equatorial current The north equatorial current flows westward above the equator. Counter equatorial current flows between NEC and SEC, that is north equatorial current and south equatorial current. Counter equatorial current flows between NEC and SEC. Next point. The northeast monsoon drives the water of Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea to circulate in counterclockwise direction called as northeast monsoon drift. Northeast monsoon drift. Next point. In summer, the entire water of North Indian Ocean comes under the influence of southwest monsoon producing a clockwise flow of southwest monsoon drift. Southwest monsoon drift. Next point. During the summers, the north equatorial current and counter equatorial current are nearly absent. So is there any significance of gyre? Gyre का significance है, yes, in the context of Northern Atlantic Ocean, it has resulted in a huge stagnant sea with seaweed, है ना? So in the same way, the waters of all other oceans are also totally stagnant at the center, whereas they are surrounded by the oceanic current. Okay, so that is the important significance for now. बाकी तो बाद में आएगा इसके बारे में. ठीक है? So this is a very important part, ocean currents. We have covered it. Okay, please go back and revise it once and try to remember all these current names before coming to the next class. We will go in slightly more detailed manner where we will talk about thermohaline circulation and other circulations. Okay, so we'll continue in the next class. So if you have any queries, please ask me in the next class. Okay, I have to leave. Thank you.